So that is very, very necessary. And if you recall, I think from your previous classes when you are still in what last year, year 1, is it? Anyway, I talked about the 5 W's, which are the who, what, when, why, and where. These are the things that you try to get in a message. Whenever you're trying to communicate to somebody, these are the main elements of the message that have to be there. What is it, the message that you're trying to communicate? To whom are you trying to communicate the message? At what point in time? And why? What's the reason for the communication of the message? And then you have the issue of the place. Where do you feel like you should communicate the message? So all these, the 5 W's rather, are the ones that are going to help you in communicating the message. I don't think you are writing this. Are you writing these things? You shouldn't, because this. How do you take notes? What's your way of taking notes? What's your technique? Because I said there are 7 C's. Bye-bye. I said there are 7 C's. This is how you take notes. There are 7 C's. Okay? The 7 C's I've talked about completeness. What you can write in this one. But you don't have to write all that. I think you will remember what I'll say in between. You don't have to write all this stuff in between, isn't it? No, Mama. Yeah, you just write that. Actually, when I'm looking at the 7 C's, if you know what the number 1 complete, who can fail to explain what was completeness? No one can fail to explain what completeness is. As long as you know its completeness is number 1, that's all. You're not supposed to write everything that's in between. If you start writing this, you make yourself doubt. True or false? You make yourself doubt. But if you know what the meaning of completeness, you'll be able to explain what it is and so on and so forth. Instead of writing all this, you can't afford to write all that stuff. It's a lot of work. You're supposed to be bosses. Oh, well, no. Unfortunately, no. Just because I don't know. I don't know. How do I know? They have to follow suit, isn't it? I think probably that's why they have the thing. It's going to help them. Wherever they are, they'll be copying. But I don't share notes. It's not my style. Oh, what? Really? Unfortunately, I'm not going to do it. But anyway, number 1, we said completeness. Number 2, conciseness. When we're looking at that, we're looking at coming up with the shortest possible version of what you're trying to communicate. Last time I talked about the lifespan of the people, the attention span rather. The attention span of people. You realize people pay attention to a certain extent when they are trying to listen to your communication. Although you know, you came here, you are fully engaged and so on and so forth. As the time goes, I'm going to start losing you one by one. That's what happens with attention. And because of that, you want to try and come up with the shortest possible version of your communication to the people. That's why you need to be concise. So you need to be on point or to the point. Don't be wordy in your writing if it's about writing. Don't be beating around the bush rather. You just go straight to the point and communicate what you are trying to communicate. There are a lot of people that love to speak in parables. That's what you are trying to run away from. So there are a lot of issues that you can be looking into. For example, shortening the words. has not, comes as hasn't, something like that, and so on and so forth. I've given some few examples there, and the alternative words that you can use. For example, in the view of the fact that, it comes as because. In a same sentence, it can be used as that one. So because is the short version of that. Last but not least, you can simply use finally. But people feel like last but not least is, a better way of expressing that you have a better vocabulary for people. But you're just becoming wordy. There's a lot of stuff that you're putting in. Okay. Another thing is you can stick to the purpose of the message by deleting irrelevant words, pretty much whatever I was already saying. The bottom line is be on point, to the point, hit the nail on its head, provide the important information that you're trying to provide. That's what you are trying to achieve. We're continuing with the 7 C's. The third one is consideration. This means you consider the receiver's interest or intention. When I was explaining to you last time, I also highlighted to say communication is about the person that you're communicating to and not necessarily you. When you're trying to communicate the message, I'm trying to communicate to him. It's about him and not about me. I have the message, yes, but he is the most important part of the conversation and not me. So if I'm going to him, bombarding him with some fancy English that he doesn't understand, there will be no communication that will take place. But I have to understand him. I have to understand his intentions. I have to understand his interest for me to be able to communicate exactly how I want to communicate to him. And there was some campaigns that were happening, I think, in the campaign in the south, somewhere in Tiolo. And Zizi Zobanga, they wanted to recruit some project managers for the project, and the same ones were going to be the communication personnel. And they employed some guys. It was nationwide, the whole Malawi. So they needed at least one per district. And they included some Ngonde guy from this side of town, from Karonga and so on, and went there. I think by the time so he couldn't communicate. He was the one who had the information. So he was going to someone who That's a very big barrier in communication for a project that you have invested a lot of money in. You get my point? You've invested a lot of money in the project, but you are using someone who can't communicate to the people. Because you have dwelt so much on the guy that is going to communicate and not necessarily the people that are going to receive the message. So when you're trying to come up with a communication, the important issue that you have to consider is the people that are going to get the message. We gave a lot of examples last time to do with communicating to Asilamu, communicating to different kinds of people, communicating to children, communicating to, and so on and so forth. If you're communicating to children, you're looking at who is the best candidate that can communicate to the children, who can be able to provide the information to children. It's not everyone who can do that. When I was teaching, it wasn't in this class, when I was teaching the radio programming, I think in your friends that are doing journalism, I was giving them an example to say there was a time I was on radio, and when my program was ending, the next person that was coming was supposed to do kids program, and he didn't show up. And I don't do the kids program, but I was supposed to do the kids program. The people are listening, they know, the kids know the following program is the kids program. So I have to jump in. It was a total mess, because it's not my thing. I don't do that. I can't be there providing a best to the kids. It's scary. So the one that does it so well, he's used to it and so on. He has the right information that can provide to the children, has the right tone, has the right words, has the right vocabulary that suits the children. But I didn't have it. So there has to be a consideration for the people that are communicating to. That's what is going to inform you how best to communicate to them. So that's why you're looking at consideration. 3 ways to indicate consideration. Number 1, you focus on you instead of I. I said it because the focus is on the person that you're communicating to and not you. So it's not about I, we. No, it's not. It's about them. It's about you. In preaching, the pastors use what they call you preaching. So you don't say like, "Titembenuken team," no, "Mutembenuken team." That's how like the message hits. It shows good, like, okay, in I think I'm okay, but now you have the problem. So that's how the message hits them. That's how they know, oh, messaging. Yeah. For example, instead of saying our organization will give you 100,000 kwacha, you say you will be granted 100,000 kwacha. That's just an example. There are a lot of examples. Let's start from here. How can you do that? Give us an example. Changu. Give us an example, a sentence, anything of this kind. Kodisha Kare, give me 2. It shouldn't be something to do with you, but it should be about the people. So you give me 2 sentences. Who can give me an example? Yes. Okay. Okay. Another example. Quickly. Yes. Let's start here. You give me 2 sentences actually. One, the same sentence with a you about you, then the same sentence you can rephrase it so that it should show that it's not about you, it's about the people. Hmm. 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 Anyway, apart from focusing on the you, or I rather, apart from focusing on the I and the we and so on, you also show the audience benefit of interest or interest of the receiver, but also emphasizing positive and pleasant facts. All these have their own examples. For example, instead of saying it is impossible to repair your computer today, you start by saying your computer will be ready by. So by that, you're showing the positive side of the message. Instead of the person focusing on you failing to do the computer, now the receiver of the message will be focusing on when the stuff will get done. It will still be done, but it's not going to be today. But when you start with it is impossible to repair your computer today, the focus is on you failing to repair the computer. But if you say your computer will be ready by, the person knows that the computer will be ready anyway, but it's not just today. There is another example I think about it. So those are some of the examples that you would use in terms of consideration, how you consider the receiver of the message by not paying more attention to you. Then concreteness is another issue, another C. This means being specific, being definite, and vivid rather than vague and general. You can achieve that in the following ways. Number one, use facts and figures, but also use active voice. What's the opposite of active voice? Passive voice. Give me two sentences. Emoji are passive, emoji are active. Same sentence. Quickly. Two sentences. Jango jango. Mommy said that you need to go. Okay. Active. This is going to be interesting. You need to go to school. I don't think that's passive and active. That's direct and indirect. Like, it's reported. You know what I mean? Okay. Another example. Another example. Should be active and not passive. The beans were eaten by me. I ate the beans. Active and passive. Inayo imakanga lyozungulira and so, so vague and it's just direct. You hit the nail on its head without going round and round. The verb has to be active. That's the issue to do with active voice. It's nothing else. In reported speech, as she's tried to express it, what would be the disadvantages of using that on a person that you are trying to engage? You're not sure of what you're saying, isn't it? It's like you're not sure. You're not direct. You're not confident in the things that you're trying to communicate. So you run away from that by being active in what you're saying. It gives a direct authority, not necessarily a command, but authority. It shows that you know what you're talking about. So that's why it is important that the communication should be in active voice. We'll skip all that. Go to number 5, clarity. There's another C. Clarity. It's another C. The communication has to be clear, and this is aided by using words that are familiar to the message receiver. I gave you an example of a communication of people with different languages. But in this case, you are being precise, using familiar words. If it's English, using English that the receiver can understand. Construction of effective sentences, as well as paragraphs. You are trying to achieve a good leadability, but also listening ability. In some other cases, you might use illustrations, you can use examples, and also sometimes visual aids, for example, the graphs, and so on and so forth. All those are necessary in trying to clarify the point you're trying to put across. And the 6th C is the courtesy. being aware of the perspectives of others, being aware of the perspectives and the feelings of others. In my previous class, I also said of, I think I gave an example ya Ubwandiro. I think Ubwandiro ndaika kwa ma example ambili. It's not like I go there. Kwa mano the example mwema nibwelera bafu. So I was saying, good, when you are engaging people of that nature, Mahure, when you are engaging them, you don't go there with prejudice. You go there while you're trying to understand their perspective or their business. You're also understanding their feelings. I said last time, good, you don't go there like, you're trying to condemn the people. Already they are doing a hard job. It's a big job for them. Okay, usiku wina ule wase, mugugona, they are busy. It's hard labor, isn't it? Yes, it's hard labor. So you're not going there and go, what business? It's not like that. You understand them, but you don't know how they started, you don't know their perspective. So you take it from there and you start engaging them. That way you understand their feelings, you understand their perspectives. So when you are trying to, for example, if you want to change people, you start understanding them. Okay, I understand, you're doing this is for money. Through this, you are paying my rentals. Through this, you're paying fees for your children. Through this, you are paying tithe kuchechi. Through this, you're also taking care of other people's bodies and needs, but still more, there are alternatives. And when you're trying to give them alternatives, you also tell them how important those alternatives are or how beneficial it could be to them. That way it makes sense. But if you just start from a wrong foot, you're not going to give them the message that you're trying to surrender to them. That's why it's important that you understand other people's perspectives and feelings. This is one of the issues yomwemayambisa ma-arguments. Failing to understand the other people's perspective. People don't respect other people's perspective. Understand them. That's what they love. You don't just start the same thing with Nkumba. And that our seventh day, they fail to understand our perspectives. Nkumba Makoma, for us, it's like the best in the world. Understand us from that perspective before you tell us, this is outside. Those are the things that people fail to deal with. So Kerese is a very, very vital aspect. Then correctness is another issue. This is our last C. Correctness is another issue. It's our last C. I said 7 C's. This simply means writing messages with proper grammar, punctuations, and spelling. Proper grammar, punctuation, spelling, and spelling. And these things have an issue when, for example, in English, when you're looking at formal and informal English, or especially when you're communicating, let's say, to adults, but there are also sometimes you're communicating to your fellow youths. This issue arises. And it becomes vague. It becomes vague. So you give me, to signify the end of this part, you give me one. Okay. You give me one barrier to effective communication. In alias, you give me one. Let's start here. What would be one barrier to effective communication? A challenge to effective communication. Entipange jangu zigwena otitengera kati 30 seconds summaries. What would be a challenge to effective? Anyone who is ready. A barrier to effective communication. A challenge to effective communication. Yeah, this is don't just go the other way around. What? Barriers to effective communication. What's that is yeah, what are the barriers to effective communication? Language, okay, number one. What else? Barriers to effective communication. What else? Yes. I watched you the other day. I didn't know you're a good basketball player. She's so good. I enjoyed her. But still more give me a barrier to effective communication. Ili tuwange balance performance ya pa court in the young class. Give me one. We know in the language. Guys, these things are simple. Come on. Ntuzoba zinga upangiseni kuti communication ikhale yopochoka. Wina yakanike kumva uzomwe mupanga communicate ndi chani. Leo yakuti language ina kama yankhula Chizulu kumamuuza wakunkhota-khota. Samvanapo. That's a barrier. What else? Wrong spellings when writing, okay. What else? About cruising nicely. What else? Quickly. Somebody beat it as long as you back it up. A lot of things. When I listen in our most. If you're not thinking, you are going to delay us. What else? What else? A proper grammar. What else? Yes, improper grammar, language. He said what? He said what? Wrong spellings. What else? You must have our way. Barriers to effective communication. Barriers to effective communication. And then may so no go to the mess. What? Barriers to effective communication. Lack of confidence. Lack of confidence, how? Okay. Makes sense. It makes sense. Makes sense, that's right. Wasaraweka is my favorite basketball player Kamuzibana. The what? I didn't hear the whole sentence. Pressure to kaya inaweza sendilishwa kama poti ndiwe ningatenesa yote jana. Communication skills for social work practice. continue. This time around, I want to focus on some of the very notable ways. I think I taught you this. It's just a reminder. I taught you this in language and communication skills. So some of the notable ways of communicating is mass communication. Number one, mass communication is where technology is involved. When there's no technology, it's not really called mass communication. The other one is public speaking, then sign language, there's Braille. I think we all know Braille. Then there's books, then dialogues, and some more that you're going to add to your notes. So these are just some of the notable ways of communicating that actually you already know. And one of the skills that you need to have in terms of communication are the listening skills. And specifically when we're looking at listening skills, we're looking at active listening skills. And in terms of active listening skills, a couple of skills are also essential in active listening. And we're looking at note-taking as an example, effective questioning, but also nonverbal communication. Note-taking is one of the ways in which you relay information to the other person that you are serious with the message that they are giving you. It shows that you are serious, you're taking consideration of what the other person is saying. Effective questioning, for example, after a lecture, if somebody is asking questions, it's one way of showing whatever that was being talked about. Then nonverbal communication, issues to do with posture. They are also very, very important ingredients in active listening skills. There are three main purposes of active listening. Three main purposes of active listening. Number one, you want to give the confidence to the one that is listening. Number two, you want to grasp the important points. And not already you're being confused because what I'm saying is not written there. Like, what's happening? Oh, why do you want everything that I'm saying to be written there? Actually, this is the first time this semester that I've brought a PowerPoint presentation, isn't it? Yeah. Shredding mango uncle all along. So I thought you're already used to that. So it's not everything that I'm saying that's there. Much as I've put a slide there, I've seen the figure. And lastly, active listening is important because it necessitates the communication. At the end of the day, there's communication that is happening. And active listening encompasses three main issues, and that's purpose, tactics, and use. Those are the three issues that you pay attention to when it comes to active listening. It's what we encourage you, in other words. It's what we encourage you to listen actively, to listen attentively. Number one, purpose, where you ask yourself, what's the purpose for listening? So if you are interviewing someone in the field, for example, what will encourage you to pay attention to what they are saying is your quest for knowing what is exactly that you are going to listen to in that case. If there is nothing important you're going to listen from that person, then there is absolutely no point to be attentive. But if you know the purpose listening actively or attentively, you're going to pay attention to the message. Apart from purpose, there is tactics, where you come up with the tactics that are going to help you to become a better listener. However, as I said, utisinde kuchedwa ndikutamangira, because I already gave you this. I already taught you these things. I don't see any reason why we should waste a lot of time on them. My assumption is you already have these notes. Ngati munataya zanuzi. So a tactic is basically a strategy that is going to help you to get or grasp the message that you're trying to communicate. So speakers, for example, use tactics to help listeners understand their message. For example, one of the tactics that I can use in knowing if at all you guys are understanding the message or not are the questions that I'm asking. If I see that you're not responding, I know good Antonio, either simnamve what I've said or ndino samva. It's both ways. Some people use another tactic of trying to paraphrase what the other person has said. For example, if I said kumwa mwamoshida wandikoipa, someone will paraphrase it. You said kumwa mwamoshida wandiko. It's a way of trying to understand the message that is being communicated. Then there's use. What is the use of active listening? Active listening will help to avoid issues like confrontations, frictions, misunderstandings, and so on and so forth. Is there any question on this? It was a very short presentation on active listening. Is there any question? There are a lot of benefits to this. I think it's all those kind of issues. All those are the benefits of active listening. Is there any question this far? These are very simple things that we are not supposed to be discussing even in class. I just make sure that I know you. I still touch base on them, and so it was just a reminder of what we already did. But it's still imperative, it's still important in your social work practice. If there are no questions, we're going to our last part of our presentations this morning by looking at critical thinking. If there are no questions, allow me to look at critical thinking. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this. Otherwise, this was my main part. It was critical thinking. So on critical thinking, very important issues that I want to address here. There is an expression that people love to make. It's a joke actually. Ama neno when somebody says jump, you don't say how high, you say why. Ever heard of that? You know, you don't ask how high. Why should I jump? That's just an example of critical thinking. That's what you're looking at in critical thinking. When you're looking at critical thinking, basically you're trying to make sense of whatever is happening so that you don't just do something in chimbulimbo. Are we getting each other? That's what we're looking at. Critical thinking is not I don't know if you have watched some clips, particularly when Agamapanga, literally, he just comes off the corner and starts running. And Hosa Jama, hey, I'll tell you, no, that. That's what we are discouraging in terms of critical thinking. When you are reading in critical thinking, you're trying to read between the lines. Then you come up with your own perspectives on story. There are two issues what I want us to focus on. They will be a bit tricky, but anyway, they're still important. I'll use them as examples. Finally, just two issues that have been very vibrant within these 2 weeks, probably. There was ukwato engagement ya Tondola Uganda when he said about investing in a woman. Then another issue that we will dwell on is issue of pakula beans. These are two issues that we're going to look at. Very, very important that we look at them. Yeah, I'm serious about this thing. We will start with investing in a woman. When someone tells you, I'm investing in you, the moment you look at this investing in someone, number one, it's a business thing, isn't it? Investing is already a business kind of thing. You invest in something, you should benefit something. There's something that is active, there's something that is passive. The investor is active. Amena umpangido invest here is passive. In other words, the investor is a man, then we have a woman here. This one is passive, this one is active. So that's number one, the issues that you can get from here. This one is active, this one is passive. This one is at the receiving end, this one is at the giving end. And this one is an object. This one is the subject. There are a lot of things that you can analyze and come up with here. A lot of issues that actually, that's why there were a lot of commentators that came up because of this. And other people were saying, and blah, 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 because you can't do that for your woman and blah, blah, blah. But that's what we call critical thinking. You see an issue and you don't take it as it is. You dig deep in it and say, what do you mean when you say this? You start to analyze. I invested in her. She wasn't like this when I was meeting her. What does that mean for the people that have already invested in her? That they didn't do a good job, isn't it? Like the parents and so on. They didn't do a good job. to see kuti ndinsikana wabwino zayambira pomwe ineyo I started dating her. That's critical thinking. You don't just take things the way they are. Another issue, when I say men invest in your women, you're taking women as if they are not capable, but they can invest in themselves. But they have what it takes. That's why you're coming to college, isn't it? You're coming to college to be independent, to be able to provide for yourself, so that you should avoid this kind of embarrassments. So that's what we call critical thinking. This is just one sentence, but from it you come up with a lot of narrations that will help you to decipher this kind of information. This is the kind of information that organizations should be fighting against. Actually, baba ndangoona kuli zi azimaisa kuyankhula, because azimaisa mayankhula when it involves men giving them money. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. But this is an issue that they were supposed to be speaking about. No, men can't be talking to us like this. No. Money now, we are an investment. No, we are not. We actually invest in ourselves. We have what it takes to invest in ourselves, and so on and so forth. Then another issue ya kupakula beans. It's it's embarrassing, it's belittling. It's so belittling to women and so on. And a lot of people are using it. And actually, so there are a lot of women that are so happy with it. They're using it and they're so happy with it. But no one is thinking critically about it. We know this is so intimidating, it's so belittling, it's not supposed to be talked about. That's what we're looking at when we're looking at critical thinking. Asking questions, why is this happening? Very, very important. That's why ukamamfusira uyoyo, it's important kuti mumfuse uyoyo why. Pakale zifukwa zokwanira zomwe inuyo mumufunira chikulire. Because that's not a reason enough. There has to be enough reasons that somebody has to give. I'm not making you ladies tougher. I'm just trying to say there have to be enough reasons for something to happen. That's why even the institution, if it says takweza fees, it also has to tell you takweza fees for chakoti takugulirani, these things that for studying. We have added some books there. There's devaluation of kwacha, rising cost of living, rising cost of magesi, and so on and so forth. And because we're a private institution, where do we get the money? It's from your tuition. Therefore, I can start it equates with this percentage. Providing reasons for whatever is happening is critical. So when we're looking at critical analysis, we're looking at analyzing things critically to try and dig and find out the reason, the whys of whatever is happening. When you'll be doing research, it's a customer critical research. In this kind of research, you will be looking at why things happen. Not just the order of the day, with okay, this leads to B, to C, to... No, we're trying to figure out the flaws, the mistakes in things. Why do these things happen like this? You'll be looking at the organizational structures, for example. Why is it that the organization in IDOC, that's critical thinking, because under normal circumstances, you think that's how things happen. But now you'll be looking at why is it that every organization, every institution, every company, that's my watching. You're being critical about something. I gave you guys an example. I think year one. I don't know if it was you or the other class. I was giving them an example. Kantu ukamapita pamaliro, I think unaliro. Kuti ukamapita kantu maliro, azibamba mangofikira kukhala pachani pamipando azimayi pamphasa. What's the reason for that? There has to be a reason. There's no good reason. Kuti matako azibamba sangakhale pamphasa. Amakhala, isn't it? Amakhala. But what makes them kuti akakhale mpando azimayi akhale phasa? Looking at things critically, analyzing them critically. Why do it happen like this? Why should it be like this? I want you to give me an example, of the things that you feel like you can critically analyze and wonder, why does this happen like this? And that was an example. Give me an example in your societies, why some things happen like that. Just an example of a question. Changu lala takoseko ndayata apa umsika katika undipasa example mos simutuluka. That's one example. Quickly, I'll give you 3 minutes to think about it. Nas. Jambira. Quickly. Isn't it yourself? I'm gonna just send it. Yes? Why is it men in our household don't like doing those? Don't do those. It's a bit weak. It's a bit weak because it's not like they don't want it, they are not given, you know what I mean? Gangobado is just like they don't give you those chores, so you can't go and be asking for them. Yes, you know. So pretty much it will be why do parents give these chores to women and these chores blah blah blah. That probably makes sense. Kama iwo kama many wagango bad everybody. They're not being given those. No, that's fine. That's a good analysis. What else? Yes. Okay. Okay. I like that one. Makes a lot of sense. I like that. What else? Imagine zako ndo mimi amekira chote uende umwese mbwerera. What? Okay. Oh. Okay. Okay. I feel like you are just attacking men. Okay. What else I said? This is your first class this semester? Yeah? You wasn't here? Where were you? Where is it? Okay, you were in my first class, my last class, year one? Oh, okay. Yes. Why is it that men are considered superior and considered strong if they keep their wives? You're considered strong. Is that a fact? Like a villager, if a man hits the wife, it means he's strong and he's the head of the house. But then if the wife is misbehaving and she's not okay. Okay. Yes, why must we okay. All right. Okay. It's good. Yes, okay, that's big. That's huge. You know what I mean? That's those are the things that I'm talking about. It's huge, it's international. Actually, that's a very good research area that we can do. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Things like those. They look like they're okay, come on, they're belittling women, isn't it? But in most institutions that I've worked, in the classes that I've studied, which means they're very much capable. It's us who try to belittle them and feel like, okay, blah, blah, blah. But these are very, very capable people. Yeah. From your experience, maybe. Yeah, Governor. They're really, really good people. Actually, another issue would be why should men be the head of the house? I know it's biblical, but you also have to question the Bible. Why should men be the head of the house? And natural upon the moment we find a question, why should it be natural? Could it mean should be heads of the house? Come again? Hmm. Of being the head of the house. For me, being the head of the house is not to do with masculine. I think for me is to do with being able to make important decisions, but also be able to be the one who is the breadwinner. You know what I mean? I don't think so. I don't think Muguipa masculine Nagasi, you want to be the ones that are providing. That's why a lot of men are intimidated when it's the wife that is providing for the family. But in a family, it's pretty hard, you know, say it's very rare. But if both men and women have the same earnings or monies and so on, there's going to be someone who is going to be, you know, winner. So the one who has more power, and these days money is power. So the one who has more power is actually heading the is actually heading the family. That's why my family is always the wife that is, yeah, is a little bit higher in terms of earnings. My marriage is all makanga a little bit shaky because the guy is a bit insecure. Like, okay, now understand kapu. So, for example, no one is anymore. She feel like what? She will not feel like she actually is. She's not feeling like she is better than the guy. So that the people must be power. But someone. Okay, like naturally women want to be power. So should one find what no, no. You know, you as a bambo mugakanindra mazambi. Does it mean you're going to find whatever yanonga? That's the thing. That's the thing. That's why I'm saying that there's no clear cut thing. It's not like it's factual. Everything it depends. It depends on the person. It's like muntu yo wafuna utakabezewe. But it's not necessarily kuti wafuna choti ndi nkazi. No. Whereas, and I said there are a lot of things if you as a bambo feel like they are right, even when they are wrong. For example, it's expected of a husband to cheat, but it's not expected of a woman to cheat. You know what I mean? Like how it's a lady, and many wapanga cheat. The story becomes huge. Like how in Zibambo, you know, it's like mamula kuira nkazi amwena msamaji opanga muone sena chocho. That's but if it's a lady, the story becomes huge. But these are the things. It's just an example, but it's a lot of things that happen in that way, you know. But anyway, it is what it is. So critical thinking, the kind of thinking which seeks to explore questions about existing knowledge for issues which are not clearly defined and for which there are no clear-cut answers. Most of the things that we've been talking here are the things that have no clear-cut answers. Kutyolo ngamadusa munsewu wina wake amakonda kuti kuli maliro ali kumuzi amakaika masamba ngati mu M1. Yeah, I don't know what's the reason. I'm like, how it doesn't make sense. Masamba kaika kwa M1 kutali kwambiri. I think this has also been the issue kusungwi kanova mpaka nandaona kuti kusunga nasiya amadusa. Who comes from Songwe side area 25? You come from 25? Can you go 25? Anyway, Songwe Basik Palimanda Venavagap is close to the market. Yeah, it's a very busy market. Yamarenga masamba magaika kwa mano komani majoka blanta have observed that asia ambakuma ika fumbi kuna kwake. But initially they were doing that. Nde anthu kusika sio kukwera njinga kutali cause kuli maliro. And actually it's a graveyard that covers for a lot of people. So pafufupi daily kumakhala kuli maliro. You know, in a week kawiri katatu. So it kind of disturbs a lot of issues. You know, so those are the things that you should be asking. But basically, the objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form judgment is what forms the basis of critical thinking. So you're trying to find out what is it that is happening, the flaws, the mistakes, or better still, some of the misunderstandings. And these are just some of the attributes of a critical thinker. questions. I think we talked about that. Assessing statements and arguments. We talked about a lot of arguments here. Admitting a lack of understanding or information, has a sense of curiosity, skepticism. It's all those things are like, oh, why do these things happen like this? Or sometimes when you are interested in finding out new solutions, you also use this. Also, trying to examine beliefs, tunanena sasa beliefs and assumptions or opinions. Hey, suspending judgment until facts have been gathered and blah, 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 blah. All those things fall into the category of critical thinking. Attributes also, I think these are the things that are going to come on the exam. I think it's a very interesting part. Critical questions that you can be employing. For example, why, how far, how often, to what extent? How do we know this is true? Palandoena mango yangu langani chani. Always amabwesa nkani yanyoa. You know. Daily ndinali kwina kwake daily unali malo angati. In the morning ndinali kwina kwake ndi kunachitika chao chao. Ndakumana ndi munthu wina ake iwe one man umakumana ndi anthu angati. You know, all those kind of things. You need to be asking the people the questions. How reliable is this source? This is what I'm just saying here. Palandoena nkani zao, it's always tricky. Okay, what could be going on below the surface? Why is this person telling me about this person? What do we know about this? Which is preferable? Okay, for what reasons? Critical thinking when reading. This is basically reading between the lines. We are trying to find out the deeper meanings in the text, what exactly the person is saying, and even more by trying to explore their sources, their motivation behind their writings, and so on and so forth. Critical thinking in reading involves the following. Number one, identifying the line of reasoning in the text. You're trying to identify the evidence. Where is this whole thing coming from? What's the motive behind? What is their conclusion? And in identifying the line of reasoning, we are looking at what is the main argument or position being defended in this text. What is it that the person is saying? What is it that he is trying to communicate? What is the main basis of the communication that is being delivered? And when we're looking at an argument, in most cases, there are three parts that we're looking at. Number one, we're looking at the conclusions, the reasons, and the evidence. What is it that they are concluding? In a text, when there is a passage, you realize that they are making some kind of conclusions that they want them to be the facts. For example, they would say, most men in Malawi are educated than women. Muntu walembanga sentence. Akupanga conclusion. The manager is like a conclusion. He has made a conclusion. It's a passage that you are reading. And in passage mwapeza wani muli sentence, most men are educated than women. That's a conclusion. So you try to look for those kind of conclusions in a passage. What is it that this person is saying that is providing as facts in a sentence, in a passage? When you find those, you try to look for the reasons behind that person writing. Why is this person writing this? You will realize that probably he's writing that because he's a man himself. Then you find the evidence. Is there evidence that supports this? Because it's true. In that way, you are trying to think critically within a given text. In that way, you're trying to think critically in a given text. We'll jump to critically evaluating the line of reasoning. Critically evaluating the line of reasoning, or especially starting with assumptions. Where do you use this? I think before I go further, where do you use all this? Why am I giving you critical thinking aspects of communication skills in social work practice? When you are interviewing people or when you're listening to stories from people, the stories are going to have all these kind of aspects that you need to challenge. So teaching chose chomwazikanena kuti is the biblical truth. No. There are some things that they will be saying kuti mwina nkhani ngowakomera. For example, because we all know, or we are sure, or we are convinced kuti in a family nkhanza zimachitiridwa kwambiri kwa azimayi. A lady can take advantage of that. Ndikunena kuti akumenyedwa ndi mwamuna wake mbanja when in real sense sakutani sakumenyedwa. It's only through critical thinking that you'll be able to find out whether that's true or that's false. Are we together? It's only through critical thinking that you'll be able to find out whether zomwe akunena munthu ndizoona kapena ndizodani ndizonama. Otherwise, you'll not be able to know. People will take advantage of people always. So you can't know unless you establish the reasons behind the person saying whatever they are saying. And because of that, that's why I was saying, Gudi, you try to identify the line of reasoning in the text, if it's a piece of writing. So you can translate it to speaking, you can translate it to writing, and so on and so forth. In terms of writing, these are the things that you look at. But in the same way, you can put this in terms of what? In the terms of speaking. You can still identify the line of reasoning in someone's speech. It's still possible. You identify that kind of reasoning. You identify the evidence. Where is the evidence of what is happening? Is there any evidence? All those kind of things have to be established. Okay? Then critically evaluate the line of reasoning. From what angle is she saying whatever she's saying? Then critically evaluate the evidence. It's all those kind of thinking that you are supposed to evaluate so that you come up with the right intervention. So why is it important to critically analyze this? At the end of the communication that you are having with your client, you want to give the feedback. You are not going to give the right feedback if you don't critically evaluate whatever the person is talking about. You are not going to give the right feedback if you are not going to evaluate the text that the person is providing you with. There is no bigger intervention because you didn't understand what the person is saying. And when that context is key. Kwa anthu ena ndikampa sambama uyu, it will not be an issue. You'll be like,
Tamenyedwa hivi.
Kwa muntu wina or a pat on the back hikaishi. Lakini
sinamenyedwa kwa moyo wanga wose. Makolo wanga sana ndimenye buka emberero kundimenye blah blah blah.
So the context is different. That's how you critically evaluate things. You evaluate the situation, the environment. How best can you take advantage of this situation so that you are able to communicate whatever you're trying to communicate to the person. These are communication skills that you use in your social way practice. Does this person just have an agenda against this person? Because at the end of the day, you'll be coming up with recommendations. For example, a recommendation quoting hani vito ku police. And just recently, there are a lot of inachitika kwa Nsundwe about the women omamate agwiriridwa. I don't know who followed it. Kunalizonesero or something. The amada police anagwirira antu kandi antu ena anagwirira antu ena kwanso anagwirira azima ena kwanso. Nkhani inapita ku court and the people were arrested, thrown into jail, only to realize later what sanagwiriridwa. And they have released them. Chabompano akalamo kandika 2 years kabwino mu jail. A kalamo for some time because of how women are perceived in a society already. So if a woman goes in court and said, "Oh, you want to agree," then you're gone. You're doomed. You're doomed. It's already hard. So those are the things you think critically. So actually, my judge, they will be using this kind of skills. Is it this person just taking advantage of this person and blah blah blah? So those are some of the issues. Critical thinking in writing and blah blah blah. And I didn't have it. So those are important issues, important things that you need to be paying attention to. We have looked at 3 important things today. Number 1, critical thinking. We have looked at effective communication. I also have given you some of the issues on active listening, some of the things that we already did, but I felt that it was important that we just look at them here and there. Is there any question? Any question? Any additions and subtractions? Anything at all? But there is a book by Juliet Koproska. Do you have it? It's a book by Juliet Koproska. Let me see if I have it in my phone. I should send it on your forum. So you have a presentation to make from the assignment, isn't it? Which we are going to do next week, but I need the assignment. Yeah, it's not a hard copy. I need the assignment. Mwapanga submit it? Okay, all right. Karibu mina sana bank. I know what you believe about Simna Bank. You're a late comer, so I feel like you haven't done a lot. Okay, well, it's only you? When are you doing it? When are you submitting it? Today, isn't it? Good. How many Mabanga? Mabanga submit it? Sorry? Anasintanda. Oh no, oh no, Judith in the wabereka yes. Yeah, Mungu enera mufoiri sana waendelea 16 ndio muvulana. No, eneo. Yeah, it was the same question. Okay, it's okay. Kamano, you use you use the 7. It's a very small assignment, isn't it? It's not like a big assignment. There are big assignments coming. So I'm sending you rather a document by a book by Juliet Pro. Yes, Davis. It's communication and interpersonal skills in social work. You read that, you enjoy it, it's going to help you quite a lot in your endeavors. Do you know when you are starting your exams? September. It's fine. You know. Yeah, somebody can work on that. Okay. Let me save the project. I don't know who switched it. It was you? You switched that on? Yeah, please. Can you help us with switching that off again? Otherwise, see you next week. Do we still have other students? Or excuse me. Do we still have other students or they are supposed to be here but they are not yet here? Chafuta ndeja ndama. Transport. All right. Yeah, it's fine. Falling is okay. All right. Remember date, we write a date here. What will do? Jambo. Ungo saina hapo? Umelewa wenzangu?